Get in on Stanley Cup Finals action. The Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Colorado Avalanche at Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook. Bet before the game starts, live in play. Will Nikita Kucherov continue to lead the way for the Lightning? Doing it right since 1997. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Honestly, this podcast should be about how amazing Nazem Kadri was coming back and playing the role of hero in Game 4. We didn't even know if he was going to play in the Stanley Cup final. He scores an overtime winner, and the Avs have a 3-1 series lead. But then Jon Cooper tells us to check the tape.
You know, I've been part of some heartbreaking losses and defeats to teams that took us out, and been with a group that just fights and fights and fights, and they fought their way to a third Stanley Cup final in a row. And in a cap era, when it's so damn hard and the rules are put against you, because the league wants parity. And I love that about the league. And that's what makes it tougher. And just watch this team and what they've gone through and the battling that's gone on, and we're all in this together. Players, coaches, refs, everybody. But it just this one's going to sting much more than others, just because I think it was taken on. It was potential. I don't know. It's hard for me. This is going to be hard for me to speak. I'm going to have to speak. I'll speak with you tomorrow. You're going to see what I mean when you see the winning goal. And my heart breaks for the players, because we probably still should be playing. I'll be available tomorrow.
Siege. Like, I spent hours after that game was over looking at tweets, looking at video, looking at photos, trying to determine my own conclusion about this, seeing other people's conclusion about it, thinking about how Jon Cooper reacted. How do you feel about how the ending of Game 4 and how everything went down? Let's talk about this.
Well, Jon Cooper is a skilled lawyer by trade. And so yes. I think when you step back from it, it's a masterful way to approach it. He didn't come out swinging at anyone. Mention how proud he is to be part of the league and how everyone's in it together, but he's heartbroken for the players. Look, I really do believe he has a point, that there's an early change there from Kadri coming off the bench. But I also believe if you were to have a camera on the bench throughout a game, that this sort of thing does happen quite a lot. I mean, there's chaos and line changes. I know the rule allows for basically a 5-foot area around the bench where a player is considered on, because line changes are not going to be perfect or seamless, or there's sort of a fluidity there. But this was a coach who managed to, I think, take some heat off his team in a sense, because he's really commanded what everyone is talking and writing about on the series leading into Game 5. And, as I say, I'm sympathetic to the idea, because, I do think that could have been blown down. I mean, let's say it, but it's also not so egregious that it necessarily should have been. And look, Tampa, I almost want to eulogize the Lightning right now. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I know I've been guilty of that in the series, but they played so hard in that game. There's guys blocking shots, like going down the tunnel injured. They're already missing Braden Point, and we know Kucherov left Game 3 and he's hurting, and Hedman hasn't looked himself, although he had a really great Game 4, I thought. I mean, his guys had given everything, but they were completely underwater in overtime. There was 2 shots that hit iron in the overtime period. There was a breakaway by Logan O'Connor that Vasilevsky had stopped. I mean, I just think that it was a nice way to turn the tide. And, I guess my question is this, Julian. Is there a world where the NHL wants to review sort of every goal for this kind of infraction? And I don't believe there is. We're reacting in the moment here. Maybe I'll have a different opinion in time, but I just think line changes and things like that, there's there's a fluidity to it. It's not ever probably going to be perfect. And so Jon Cooper controlled the narrative, but unfortunately the series isn't under protest. The goal's going to stand. And I think it still should be about Nazem Kadri's moment too. I understand for the purposes of our conversation, we'll talk about the sort of controversy, but that's going down in Stanley Cup history. What happened there, from him playing, less than 3 weeks after thumb surgery. That's something I'll never forget, being in the building. What a cool thing to see. And was shades of Patty Kane from 2010 too, with a little bit of a delayed celebration.
Yeah, seriously. Just seeing that goal go in, I was like, wait a minute. Like, did it go in? I really couldn't tell in the moment until you notice it being wedged in the mesh at the top of the net. And again, I just think it's a really amazing story. The fact that we generally couldn't tell if Nazem Kadri was going to be available. We saw him skating for days. He wasn't really doing a lot of stick work when he was doing that skating. And then he shows up for game 4 with the regulars. You see the shot from watching from home, obviously. But Sportsnet has this like great shot of like him, like in between, like I think it's Mikko Rantanen and Orlando Skog, but Nathan McKinnon is flanked by him. He's right there in front. This dude is ready to play. And Jared Bednar saying there's no restrictions for him. And he goes out and he does that. Like this should be the Nazem Kadri podcast. This should be the postseason, and it could still be the postseason for Nazem Kadri. But instead, Jon Cooper, you know what? I don't know if I think the refs got it right because of how wild the line changes could be, because of how Nathan McKinnon was coming off the ice and wasn't really a part of the play. And even if you look at it, the Lightning also had too many men on the ice, and some of the extra guys weren't part of the play too. But you bring up a really great point about eulogizing the Lightning. We know the series isn't over yet, but I feel Jon Cooper came from a place of emotion. He knows he needed to win that game. He knows he needed that win in order to give his team a variable chance and still winning this series. They have to go back to Denver and hope they don't get stomped on a Friday night with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. There's a chance that this dynasty that they were trying to lead to could end. And I think the way that whole presser started after the game came from a point of emotion. And whenever he realized that there were too many men on the ice, that's what just kind of buried in his mind. And he really wanted to speak honestly, but he knew he couldn't. And now he, say if it's melodramatic if you want, but now you're right. He did put the narrative on himself. He put a lot on himself with that conversation.
Well, and let's be honest, the Lightning will know this better than anyone. The playoffs success is really about not making excuses. And I don't think as an organization, they are a team that makes excuses. They played through a lot. They were the bubble champs. I know some people want to attach an asterisk to that. I think that was a harder cup to win just to stay in it mentally while living behind a fence for 2 months.
100% agree.
And so, that I just think that, so I'm not saying they're an excuse making team, but, Kadri gets that pass, great pass up from Lehkonen, from Kemper, and he's basically 1-on-3 in the moment. And so even if while acknowledging it looks like maybe about 4 seconds early, his line change, it's not like he got sprung on a breakaway by, at a shifty line change. I mean, he still made a play. And I think in his heart of hearts, when the emotion has gone away, Jon Cooper will always, because sports is all about this. Sports, no matter the outcome of a huge game or huge series, it's always, there's an element of what could have been for a team, So he might still think that what could have been, but I think when Jon Cooper is removed from this moment, he'll acknowledge still that, okay, early line change, but someone's got to play him better. Sergachev has to not get beat by Kadri, or maybe Vasilevsky makes that save or something of that nature. I mean, I think ultimately the game wasn't. There's not a lot of injustice here. Is kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, and to believe in that, you have to believe that referees aren't going to be perfect. You have to sort of acknowledge or accept that there's going to be things that happen in a game. And, that was Nazem Kadri's moment. And, he was limited. Like that's the crazy thing. He didn't take one face-off in that game. And for context, in game 2 of the Western Conference Final, his last healthy game, he took 15 face-offs. So, typically he's someone the Avalanche are throwing out there for a lot of key draws. If his hand, I'm told he's dealing with pain and discomfort in that hand. It's a control hand on his stick. I don't think he can shoot too well. If you really see, there was one really good replay I saw, Julian, not sure if you caught it, where it almost looks like he just like slices, he almost like chops at the puck after he gets around Sergachev. Like, it's clear he can't lean into the shot like he would want to in normal circumstances. I mean, what a dramatic moment. What an awesome playoffs Kadri's had. You know, not to take us back there, but remember all the crap he dealt with in St. Louis.
Yes.
With the Islamophobic and racist messages that he was receiving on social media, responds with a hat trick. You know, he had a 3-assist period in the Western Conference Final. You know, all primary assists, like where he was really turning the game. He scores that goal. I mean, he's had a real impact on this Avs run, and I can't imagine him scoring a bigger goal than that in his life. And you know, just given everything around it, it's not quite the sort of Steven Stamkos scoring on one of his 5 shifts in the 2020 bubble in the Cup final against Dallas, but it's a little bit like that. Just somehow finding a way. You know, pretty awesome stuff from him. And as I say, a lot of games end up sort of disappearing into the ether. You sort of forget the details over time. I don't think we're going to forget that goal. And I really do believe in time it won't be about the controversy. It's going to be about Kadri and his moment.
A few more questions about this. Something that just came to mind. Friday night, Ball Arena, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup. Let's say Colorado is leading in the third period, and you are given a ballot to vote for who's going to win the Conn Smythe trophy. Yes, Cale Makar, probably deserving of that honor. And totally fine if you're not able to answer in the moment. But do you think, with how Nazem Kadri played in that Game 4 and everything that he's endured to this point, do you think that, you know, if the Avs are able to close this out, that there might be some people who think, you know what, let's lean into the narrativeness of all this and vote for Nazem Kadri to win the Conn Smythe trophy? Like that's a thought I'm reckoning with right now.
I think it's possible. Look, the Conn Smythe balloting, you pick your top 3 players, and I think he's certainly worthy of a spot in the conversation for being in the top 3. Like, I don't think that's a stretch. I don't even know that it's necessarily pure narrative. You know, he missed 4 games ultimately with the hit from Evander Kane. You know, it's totally not his fault. You know, it's dangerous play resulted in a suspension to Kane. And when he's played, it's just hard not to argue. He's been one of their most valuable players. I think the numbers reflect that. The moments reflect that. And I actually don't believe, and you might disagree with this, but I don't believe that there's anything wrong with a somewhat narrative-based vote when you get to the Conn Smythe. I mean, part of the playoffs, like, without getting too philosophical, like, the playoffs themselves are a little bit random. You know, a lot of stuff happens for any team that wins a cup. And so the person that's in the middle of it all and doing things in that moment and giving you the memories, like, I think that person should be the MVP. And so I'm not making a case here for Kadri at number 1, because I really do believe Makar has been their most valuable player. I have trouble even just for the sake of making an interesting, you know, segment on the pod. I have trouble coming up with an argument against him as the number 1 vote, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Kadri get top 3 consideration. And look, he's worthy of it. He's over a point a game, and he's had just some real special things happen for him this playoffs. And you know, nothing beats that Game 4 overtime winner, though. I mean, that's the cream of the crop. I don't even know if he can shoot the puck, really, honestly. Like, I don't know where that came from. And he makes a move on Sergachev, backhand, forehand move. That's all will there, buddy. It's all will for him to even get in the game. I mean, he thought his season was done when he had the surgery. And so, you know, to find a way back and then have that is how cool is that?